Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this introductory session of Product and Brand Management. This is the paper which is MMPM 003, and I'll be taking you along with this course. Today, in Unit 1, we'll be looking at the introduction of the product management, or as we move into the product and brand management as in a totality. All of you have been aware of what marketing management has been. And we often come across the term called the marketing mix, which are called the 4Ps. When we derive product management, it is a derivative of the marketing plan that is prepared to make marketing effective. Obviously, among all the 4Ps, the product, the first P as we call it, is the crucial and the most important part of the marketing exercise, because that is where the revenues come in and you attend to the consumer expectations and needs. And the businesses all across offer this with meticulous planning and understanding the needs of the customer. Apart from the product, the first product, that the first P, we also have the other 4Ps, which is price, promotion, and place. These are like the supporting variables or supporting activities which complement the product so that they become successfully acceptable to the consumers at large. In this program, we are going to, in this course, we are going to look at the product management in various point of views, because here crucial decisions are made with respect to the business enterprise, because the earnings of an organization is through the products that they are offering. Hence, it requires a very meticulous planning, forecasting, understanding the various aspects of marketing factors that goes into creating products, communicating about them, and also making them available, be it product, tangible products or services. So when we're going to talk about product, we're going to look at both the product, tangible products, as well as intangible services. If you look into the gamut of product management, it looks into not only planning to bring in new products, but also to see how the existing products are doing well in the market. And also they take decisions as to whether you should be continuing with certain products. Because it may so happen that due to some environmental factors, the customers have also changed, their needs have changed. So do you want to continue with it or you want to phase it out? So all these decisions are taken under the gamut of the product management review. So we'll be dealing with all of that. We'll also be talking about the brand management, because brands again are a part of the which has been derived out of your product to give certain amount of acceptability from the customer's perspective. So that would be a critical thing. We would also be looking at product quality initiatives that needs to be taken to make the products more acceptable and be satisfying the customer in the long run. There's another important concept of product life cycle, because as you know, like we have a life cycle, a product also has a life cycle. As I told you, some products have to be created. They are created by getting some inputs from the market, and then they are offered to the market. But at some point of time, we'll face competition. So how is the product going to face competition? And then further, it is going to be accepted in the larger context. And if the competition tomorrow starts bringing in something which can be a better substitute this product, then what happens to the life cycle? So we'll be looking at those possibilities. So let's deep dive into the first and foremost thing of what a product entails. Any product that you talk about soap or detergent, it satisfies something, right? So when you talk about what is a product is basically an offering from the organization to meet certain requirements of the customers. But then having said that, all products need not always be successful. So there are some products which are very successful, some which also get rejected by the customers. So if you see the evolution of marketing also during the production concept or product concept that we call, it was a seller's market. So whatever product that was brought in the market was mostly the organization felt that okay, it could sell in the marketplace, hence they are there. But today's market realities is that it is more of a buyer's market, where we're talking about a paradigm shift from a seller's focus to a buyer's focus. So one has to, when you are talking about a product management, one has to understand better before even the product is coming out. Is there a need for the product? Is there a, you have to go deep dive into understanding what are the wants of the customers. It could vary significantly across geography, across cultures. For example, when you talk about burgers, McDonald's does burgers, but then point the way the burger is consumed in the American market, the way it will be consumed in the Indian market, there is a difference. So maybe the product remains the same, but to some amount of localization is required for the adaptation. You will find n number of products which get go for adaptation when they are launched into other markets. So all these things are critical for understanding the product. Now, according to Theodore Levitt, he says that product also has not only the tangible, intangibles. For example, you are buying a car, an automobile. It will have certain X amount of specifications. For example, it will be having a horsepower, caliber, a mileage, right? All these things are critical. Those price points, the colors, everything is fine. Those are tangible, but that can be made visible. You can always fix it up into the market, the color, the size, and everything can be put in. But there is also an intangible component, which is the viewpoint of the consumer. As I told you before, that today you cannot force fit any product to a customer. The customer always looks at, views the product, whether it is really necessary for them. So when the customers looks at the product, obviously what they would be looking at is that they would be judging it on various parameters. They would have their own lifestyle aspirations. They would look into, like for example, somebody is buying a Mercedes. He would look at lifestyle, the orientation, the status. So that's the intangible part of the product, right? And consumers do attach a value to the product, and as marketers, one has to understand, or the product manager has to understand what is that value association that the consumer would like to have, so that they become more satisfied as we go along. As we go on to the product characteristics, product characteristics consists of a core part, which is the basic part of any product, and of course there are some associated features which add on to give better uh, benefits to the customers. You also should know that there are products consists of features and benefits. You should be able to understand what is the difference between a feature and a benefit. A feature is a particular attribute of a product, but when that attribute is of no use to the customer, it does not become a benefit. Right? For example, if you're selling a television with a child lock facility to, let's say, a non-married person, yes, as a feature it is there, but unfortunately it is not a benefit. Why? Because the concerned prospective customer does not require it in the first place, because obviously they don't have kids, right? So we have to understand benefits from the point of view of whether the customer, what's in it for me? The customer asks this question, and understand customers do not buy features, they buy benefits. And we have to be, as product managers, one has to be understand these particular aspects, that what feature should be curated in a product or should be set in a product so that it will be accepted as a benefit. Another thing which differentiates, or which helps in differentiating a one product from another product from the manufacturer's point of view, is through a brand name. So brand name is an identification. When you talk about smartphones, the iPhone is a very classic example. Why people are running after the brand name? Because it carries certain, it stands for innovation. It starts for the best of the quality. There are certain aspirations which are also associated with iPhone. There are other brands also available. So every brand name tries to have some unique attributes which are attached to it. And while you are coining those names, we also have logos. Logos are symbols. There could be images. There could be some characters. Like in case of in Amul we have the Amul girl, or in Nirma we have the Nirma girl. We used to have the Maharaja with Air India, which of course was for some time it was deleted, was not taken up by the marketer. But again, they are trying to bring it back. In McDonald's, you have the treat characters Donald, right? So you will find that these things are very strongly used to bring in more essentials into the to give more credibility to the brand name. So logos play a very important part, and they become the mnemonics. Apart from this, the characteristic of packaging, labeling are critical. Today, from the consumer perspective, it is very important that they have to know from the labels what is being mentioned. Even if it is a Britannia's 2 rupees or 5 rupees pack, all the ingredients are given. How it is to be used is given. Right? Everything, the grammage, the date in which can be, can be used up, right? So validity to use, so those kind of things, the barcodes, every information is given. Packaging, on the other hand, is very crucial. These days, they have been able to, packaging is called as the silent salesperson. When you are going and buying anything from the market in a superstore, the packaging plays a very critical role in attracting the attention. So obviously that is also important part of the product characteristic. Now let's look into the product levels. When you look at the product, what is the product levels have been identified based on the what kind of a value that they want to bring in with the product. So we start off with the very basic thing of a core benefit. What is a core benefit of any product? It would be like a watch, time. You want to facilitate time. But today in a watch, you find that there's so many additions which are being done. So you go to so there is a level in which the product has to be made available. So you have the core product, then you have the basic product. The basic product would have some of the base elements that is required to give the core benefit. But then it also means that whenever you're putting your ads in the mass media, you also raise expectations. Like for example, if I'm seeing something from the Fast Track brand, I would look into colors, I would look into design, because that's the normal expectation how the brand has set in the minds of the people. And furthermore, to be more competitive, you will find today everybody, your competitor will never allow you to sit idly, obviously. So there is always an augmentation to give some novelty to the product, to make it more multi-purpose. Like today's watch can have, let's say, you can have a health fitness program fitted into it, right? And there are smart watches which gives you not only what should be your pulse rate, what is your, when should you be having, when should you be taking insulin, all those kind of benefits. So it is a cycle which keeps on augmenting the product. We also look into something called the potential part of the product, which is basically into the future. Going for the future, what can be the new things that can come in? That's where the R&D of the company has to reorient to look into the potential part. Of course, potential part is also driven by what is happening in the competitive space. Today, if you see the September month is considered to be an Apple month. Everywhere today, if you're seeing the newspapers, you must be seeing the ads or some articles. What new thing is going to come in iPhone 15, which is so it's a potential which is looking at the future part of the thing, and this will keep on happening. This creates a pressure on you as a marketer to come up with better products to cater to the market. And this is a up. So some products do get weeded out in the process. As I told you, in the life cycle, some products get weeded out and new products come into existence. And that is a constant thing which will keep on happening. Let's look into the product classification. How are products classified? They have classified primarily on the 3 parameters. One is the durability and the tangibility. We just look at, as you can name from the name, durability and tangibility. You're looking into durables, non-durables, and services. Now, mostly durables are tangible products, and non-durables are also tangible. But then non-durables are used for a frequently used products, something like a grocery item, staples, and convenience goods that we call it, right? That's another classification which I'm not going to talk about. But those are goods which are repeatedly used, and they are non-durable in nature. They're something like food products. They are non-durable. Your toothpaste, detergents, they get consumed very fast. So there's a repurchase involved in it. And durable goods, of course, like your refrigerator, ACs and all, they are, therefore there's a tangible component which sustains for a longer period of time. Services, which is like, for example, you go for a haircut, you go to a restaurant, right? These are services which you consume then and there and it's finished, right? Banking services, these are all services. These are intangible. You can't touch and feel that, right? So it's intangible in nature. The second level of classification of products, we talk in terms of the consumer, the way the consumer is approaching or responding to buy. What kind of effort is put by the consumers to buy. So this is another classification which is mostly used in consumer behavior, which are called the convenience goods. Convenience goods are those products where there is minimal effort put in by the consumers to buy. So mostly your grocery items, which you do day to day, the toothpaste which I mentioned. So we put very less effort in buying because they are utility. They are life saving. They are part of the physiological requirements maybe. And they can be broken down into staples, impulse goods, and emergency goods. Staples are like the grocery items. Impulse purchases are like chocolates. You do not plan anything, but you are shopping around and you pick it up. So that's impulse goods. Uh, Emergency goods, yes, something which you require on an emergency. Suppose you must have seen during the natural calamity, even a candle becomes almost a very important product to buy, right? Excuse me. The next set of classification is called the shopping goods, where a little bit more effort is put than the your convenience goods. They are can be homogeneous or heterogeneous depending upon the kind of usage you have. For example, you are changing the tires of your car. The tire manufacturer has to look into different kind of tires. So it's a homogeneous, but yes, there are certain price points on which you can be buying it based on the requirements. Heterogeneous, the shopping goods are always compared by when you look into the consumers, they look into in terms of price, in terms of quality, in terms of features, and so on and so forth. So obviously, they would be heterogeneous would be talking about a large set of products which are made available to cater to the diverse needs of the customer, as the name suggests. Going forward, we have the specialty goods. Specialty goods are a category of goods where you require special effort. Unlike the convenience or the shopping goods, you require special effort. For example, you're going to buy a car, you're going to buy an apartment, for example, or a jewelry, or designer clothes. There, you will not find not many people are there, but they have very exclusive. For example, even the iPhone or the Mercedes that we buy, these are all specialty goods. And the firms who give those, you will find we use a term called niche. People with very specialized needs are targeted. Generally, their price is slightly higher than the other products, right? And the other category in terms of consumer wear are unsought goods. These are goods which normally people don't like to buy. For example, insurance. We don't like to buy insurance, but we do it for the for the safety concerns that we have. So these are the classification as far as the consumer goods are concerned. Going forward, you should look at the industrial goods. Industrial goods, when you look at it, we can put into three categories. One is the one which goes into the manufacturing, which are basically the raw materials and the other parts which are used in the production of the company. Because in industrial, somebody is taking raw material and converting them into finished goods. So the first part is the material and the parts. The second one is basically the capital goods. Mostly they have to put infrastructure. They have to also talk about various fixtures, machinery and things like that. Those are the capital goods. The third category are the services which keeps these things running. These capital goods which are there, which I talked about, they keep them running, and they can be broken down into maintenance and repair items, which helps them to tide over the situation. Another critical thing as we look into the classification further, we need that today there's a need, or it has been felt quite long back also, that products need to be differentiated. There has to be a differentiation which needs to come in, and they are critical to the competitive advantage of a product. Because if you want to be competitive, I should tell you that how am I different from the other brand. So that becomes a critical part of a differentiation. And sometimes you will find that there are different factors which are considered to differentiate. We'll talk about that. And then we will also look into how your product design can be a differentiator. Right? Let's go to the various aspects of a product, like for example, the features, the repairability, the conformance standards. When you see an advertisement that your product can give certain benefits or certain things, so there's certain quality standards. For example, you say that the capacity of this washing machine is so and so, it can clean so many X amount of clothes in some time. So you're talking about certain conformance, certain product qualities which are there, and these are critical for them. When you talk about my bike gives X amount of mileage, you're talking about a set standard that today a bike should give this much of mileage to be competitive in the space. Otherwise, other competitors will provide and you'll be out, right? So these are critical for your in terms of repairability. In terms of repairability is a very interesting concept. Like there are certain products which require repairability. For example, cars. In Indian consumers, it is found that uh, we are very repair conscious. That we buy a car, it is like a, I mean, people put money. They want to see it at least it will stay for quite a bit of time, as much as possible. But slowly that time, that thing is changing. Today you'll find you buy a new car, you would change it another 5 to 6 years. Earlier, the people used to preserve it, used to go for a repair. Even that's a consciousness which is there, but slowly the market is also changing. So repair is also one factor. Apart from this, we also have the service differentiators. Service differentiators are like, suppose you are, if you are into an organization and you're buying laptops or sorry, you're buying desktops, it has to be installed. People have to be trained. If you're buying a Xerox machine, photocopiers, some people have to be trained. They have to be made to go through. Now, in case of individual purchases also, when we buy certain products, we go through demonstration. We go through after sales services. Now, these are critical for the service differentiation. We promise a lot of things to them. How do we go about, how do we educate people? How do we make them use the product? Because most of the products have been found that people buy it and they don't use it. And they don't use it, that is the reason why they don't perceive the value of that product. So the service backup is very much required along with the tangible product to make it viable in the marketplace. So you will talk about maintenance, returns. There are warranties which are there. Warranties are there to basically safeguard the interest of the consumer. But sometimes warranties may not be sufficient. You may have to go in for uncontrollable schemes where the product breaks down completely. And you'll find that some cars are brought back to the market to change certain parts because some kind of a production mishap had taken place. So, which we call as recall of cars, and you can do that and give a completely new setup with absolutely giving no cost. Because these are going to be differentiators in the marketplace. And the third part when we talk about differentiation is the product design. Today, product design is critical because product, as I told you, is the tangible extension what a company offers or a manufacturer offers. So that being the thing, today the design quotient of every customer has significantly changed. So you have firms which call for design. For example, the sanitary fittings, Jacor. We talk about that being they set standards. In case of smartphones, we talked about iPhone. They set the standards, right? Because these are the most visible part, and hence, and the power of design influences the consumer. Also, it influences the acceptance on the part of the consumers. It also helps you to look at streamline your manufacturing system, because if you are making a today we talk about manufacturing designs which are easy to manufacture, may be easy to also get into the market and offer to the customers. So when you are looking into the product lines in terms of production schedules, it helps you to do that. So design thinking, you must have heard of the word, is also trying to create a disruption as far as differentiation is concerned. I would like to also deal with something on the luxury brands. Okay, luxury brands have a unique thing that they are looking at a very specific market, and when you are offering, they have certain problems that they're looking into a very small segment. And the moment you try to expand the base and try to bring in more products, it finds difficulty. The differentiation that they try to bring in may be difficult. And across, if it is a global brand, the luxury brand may have a problem in establishing themselves, because across the globe, people, for example, Volkswagen Polo cannot be given at it's a small car, Volkswagen Beetle, sorry. It's a small car, but when you bring it to the Indian market, it cannot be given at the same price as your Maruti. One has to understand these limitations, because it is considered as a luxury car in that market. In India, the small car is considered to be more of a common man's car. So it becomes difficult to adjust to the concept. So one has to understand these things while handling luxury brands. And when you talk in terms of the do's and the don'ts of handling luxury, few things have been advocated that don't mess with your luxury brand, like Zara or Louis Vuitton. When they look into the fashionable bags, they cannot bring down the prices out here. If they do that, their entire brand image is lost. So you have to maintain that, but you have to associate it with various kind of associations. What kind of people would like to associate? So you have to bring in a lot of intangible associations with it. Primary association, LinkedIn. You have to come in the country of origin, celebrities, brand endorsements, which work, or influencers, as we call them today, are critical to make these products acceptable in the marketplace. Going forwards, we also may play with various brand elements, which are the symbols, logos, and so on and so forth. Brand architecture, the way we offer the product in a given market, also has to be very meticulously planned when you're dealing with luxury. So these are some of the guidelines that you can follow for a luxury. During the online thing, curating luxury brands is not that easy communication, because luxury brands mostly are one-to-one. They attend at a different level. So bringing on an online space as a kind of a medium to communicate becomes a slightly difficult. And third and most, the second point is the environmental consciousness. Today, you have to understand that firms have to deal with the negative impacts of climate. If your products are using products which are climatically considered to be hazardous, and the luxury brands are associated with it, so one has to be very careful about doing that. So we have to be careful in terms of how your products are treating the environment. That's a very important consciousness that one has to do. And apart from that, the legal aspect of a brand has to be always protected, come what may. Because when you deal with brands, one of the critical advantages that you should have is that you should have a legal protection. That's why most of the brands have the trademarks or the registered tag attached to them. Going further, we look into the product and brand relationships. Let's look into this in terms of how the products are offered. If you see the product in terms of the hierarchy, there's something called product hierarchy. You will look into different levels. You will talk about right from, if you talk about a toothpaste, what does a toothpaste do? It is a part of a larger need that we're talking they are satisfying, that is of oral care, right? But then oral care, I mean, if you're talking about oral care as a subset of our healthcare, so the need that it satisfies may be healthcare, but in a different form. So that they come across with various kind of product classes which cater to. So you have to identify in healthcare which are the needs which will help in healthcare. Suppose you identify that okay, oral care is going to be, that's a product class. Then within the class you have a product family where products which are basically, there is a functional coherence. So they look into oral care, but in multiple formats. So for example, it could be a mouthwash, toothbrush, toothpaste, and so on and so forth. So these are the product family. And if you're coming to, product family. Product class, on the other hand, product family was the oral care. Then we talk in terms of product class as being under the product family. So under the product family, we talk about toothbrushes or mouthwash, or we talk about toothpaste. Going further, I can choose that which is the product class that I should be looking at and extend the further thing in terms of offering it to the market. So let's say toothpaste I pick up. So I can pick up a product line. A product line is one where you have a host of products which cater to similar needs of the customer. They're not same, they're similar, but the customer groups are more or less the same. For example, in case of a toothpaste example, you could have very sensitive teeth, bleeding gums, right? Or tooth decay. All can be put into the product lines, right? So they can attend to that. So toothpaste would cater to multiple kind of needs. So you can have, they will all come under the product line. So on toothpaste, you will have different products given to different kind of needs. So they are similar in terms of toothpaste, but cater to different needs that the customer may have. So, but the customer groups are dealing with cleaning the teeth. So obviously that's where it's called a similar product groups. So that is a product line. Going further, you would have to Identify which one is giving unique one. Like for a decay, you could have one type. For pain, tooth pain, you can have another type. You can have a clove-driven thing for something else, or for bleeding gums. So that comes as the product type. Furthermore, you say that no, I want 100 grams. That becomes an item. That is also called an SKU. So this is called a product hierarchy. It's very important from a product management because it scopes in from the larger base need to what you're going to make it available and operationalize your product to the that you're offering to the customer. Another set of products line strategies that one has to, or product strategies that one has to understand are which is called the product mix. So what is a product mix? A product mix is one where you're talking about the complete assortment or the range of products that you are giving. It has certain dimensions. It has got a length, it has got a width, it has got a depth, it has got consistency. So let's look at that. What is a product mix parameters in terms of width? Just now I gave you the example of a product line. Product line, let's say you talk about a company like HUL, FMCG company. Product lines would be detergents, soaps, right? You can talk about oral care products or food and beverages products and so on and so forth, atta and all that. So each of them is a product line. So when you put all of them together, that would contribute to the width of the product mix. What is the length? Length is, let's say, within these product lines, you have got different varieties. When you take a sum total of all the things that you are offering, that is called a product length. For example, in HUL, when you put all the FMCG product lines that they are offering, including, let's say, in soaps, there are some 20 varieties, 30 varieties, right? All that when you sum it up, that will contribute to the product length. So the largest length would give you the length of the product mix. The depth is something to do with what you are giving in terms of product form. For example, if you're talking about a detergent can be made available in a 1 gram, 100 grams. It can be 1 kg, 500 grams, right? You must have seen sachets. Why they are there? They are giving more depth so that more and more customers can buy. Perhaps earlier they were only available in 500 grams, so some people could not buy. So you can convert non-users into users if you do that, right? So it gives you the depth of your product mix. Consistency is that where most of the products which you are offering have certain similarities in terms of the production, in terms of the distribution, in terms of how the operational aspects can be leveraged upon. So there is some kind of a relatedness in that. So when you are looking to your product mix, either you have to look into your product lines, which will be summing up your product width and the length, the kind of range that you want to give, and also the depth, because depth gives you more increasing power to reach out to your customers, more reach to your customers. And consistency is basically to bring in certain amount of relatedness that is there in this product and managing them effectively. It's very critical because when you're handling a product like a consumer durable product, like Samsung, consumer electronics, they're into televisions and so on and so forth. They're able to bring all these products together under the one thing called product mix. So you've got consumer electronics, you've got entertainment products, you also got refrigerators, you've got a washing machine, all are consumer electronics. Each of them is a part of the product mix in the consumer electronics. They've got other buckets also. So when you put into the entire range, you will find that it becomes a larger domain to manage. So obviously, that's why we're talking about each of these product mix have to be separately handled, looked into, and in terms of going ahead, very critical decisions have to be taken. One of the critical decisions that one has to take in terms of product lines is that whether we should, you must have seen a product which is introduced in the marketplace, after some time you add on some features. So this is called line stretching. You may have to go for a line filling exercise. You feel that the competitor is giving something else which you have lost out on, you would like to go and fill that gap. So when you do that, you are doing a line filling exercise. If why you do that? So that you can fight back your competition better. You can also offer more range to your customers to buy your product, right? Line stretching offers, basically it's important because because the customers have utility have changed. For example, you're adding certain features to accommodate people whose aspirations are there for higher products. For example, I want a phone which has got all the features of what a camera can have. So that's where the smartphones have tried to do that. So it's an upward stretch, right? It is more or less a phone, but it's an upward stretch. But I can also say that, okay, fine, I don't want all those features. I want to go for a very basic function of this. I don't want to pay for the other additional features of streaming, the kind of data it can handle. Of course, that's unlikely these days, but there are also feature phones, right? Which is used for utility purpose. That's a downstretch product. So you'll come across many products where certain components have been weeded out and new product categories have come into place, right? And you'll find certain products like a moped. When you talk about scooty as a scooterette, is an upward stretch from your moped, but a downward stretch from your scooter. They created a completely new category in the marketplace to fight back the competition, and you know, rest is history. Scooty is a category which has established itself in the Indian market and doing very well, and others have other competitors were forced to get into it. In the automobile market, compact SUV, Ford Motors got into EcoSports. You will find that they forced the SUV market players, the bigger players who are in the SUV segment, sports utility vehicle, to look at a compact SUV exclusively for the Indian market, because the Indian market is sensitive to that. So these are the terms of what you can do to your product line. As I told you before, these decisions cannot be taken out of the blue. There has to be consistent research, planning, forecasting, and creation. So we're talking about an idea which needs to be plugged in, that from the consumer, what we call as the consumer insights. These consumer insights then have to be realized in the as a brainstorming session to come up to convert those ideas into tangible products, and you have to put your R&D people to make prototypes which can work in the marketplace, and you put it to testing and see how the customers are accepting or not accepting, for market testing before launching them. When you talk about all these activities are considered under the product planning process. So when you talk about new product development, right from the ideation to the commercialization stage, we'll talk about that as we go through. You'll find that meticulous planning has to be done by the product managers in order to execute the marketing of products and services. Product planning essentially has got two parts to it. One is the operational part of it, which is very, very critical. But at the same time, perceptions. When you deal with consumers, you cannot, in today's competitive world, you cannot take the consumer away because we are in a bias market. That is why most, like for example, the DIY concept, do-it-yourself concept. Today, when you talk about players like IKEA, they encourage the consumers to come and co-create the product rather than they have. If you go to a store of IKEA, they will have very minimal amount of furniture available. In fact, they don't keep too much of inventories there. They rather provoke the consumers to get involved in the designing part of it. I was talking about product design as a differentiator. Yes, today they are able to differentiate by taking the people into the fold and creating new products. As a result, the customer engagement in the creation is very, very high. And when customer creation is very high, obviously you will find that these products do well in the marketplace because you are making something which the consumers need and they are involved in that process. So that makes it more viable from a perspective. So if you see product planning, of course, there are a lot many researches which have been carried out. Multiple approaches have been done. In the past, there was more focus on making the product a hero, but today we find that no, we have to take our people also around with us. So there are different changes which are coming, dramatic changes. Like for example, they are saying that if you are operating with your products, one of the approaches which we talk in terms of product planning is that don't change the product, keep the product and the marketing strategy. Others say no, look into maybe keep the product, but the marketing strategy has to change. For example, when you're talking about an Omega watch being offered to the Indian market, you would like to use an Indian brand ambassador to talk about rather than using a international. So you're customizing that. So adaptation is there. I already talked about the McDonald's story. When Kellogg's came to India, they had to look into what makes the Indian breakfast so important, because they wanted to change the breakfast habits of people. A country which was used to using flattened rice, idlis, dosas, upmas, parathas, you're trying to change them to a health option in terms of uh, uh, conflicts. Not that conflicts were not there, but they made the marketing and sales. But they don't have any say in, or they don't have the capacity to control those activities. But they play a role. They are valid. They have to validate the products that these people are doing in and putting it into the value chain to the market. And obviously it is a team effort. It is not a kind of the responsibility of product managers alone. So today when you talk about companies are becoming consumer oriented, yes, everybody has to look at the end user as the beneficiary, major beneficiary. Product managers play a role in that, but they basically it has to be facilitated by other. So they get into a matrix kind of where they are not only doing their own work, but they also have to coordinate with others. So they have a kind of a role responsibility, which is a duality of command has to be established in terms to make them work. So they will be operating under different heads to make things happen. So that's a tough call, but then that's how it is. As the complexities grow, you will find across companies, you will find verticals being created. Each vertical is handled by different brand managers. Product managers have become brand managers. How brands can grow. Today, brands have gone beyond product categories. Maggi is a very classic example. It started off in noodles, but if you see today, it has gone into multiple product categories. So these are some of the challenges which will you know which the product managers will face as we go along. And in a B2B setup, if you see the kind of interaction that the product manager has is multiple, as I told you, right from your intelligence, market intelligence, the R&D, the logistics company, the production guys, the advertising agencies, all those things. If you see, they require a larger interface with the various multiple departments. That's why I told you before that today's marketing is not the responsibility of the product managers or the brand managers alone. It is a team effort. End of the day, one has to understand that to satisfy the customers, to give more value to the customers. So when you say value, what does that mean? I look at values as something like which is increasing the benefits to the customers while you are minimizing the cost. So customer acquisition is a big challenge. So until unless you give products or services which the customers need, perhaps you will have a dislike in the entire process. So I've given you a fair amount of understanding of what product management is, starting from understanding the realities of how critical is the product function in the marketing mix and how it has to be ably supported by the other complementary variables. Understanding what a product is, simply a product is an offering from a market, but what is that offering has to be accepted end of the day. So what are the characteristics it should have, the brand names, the labeling, all play a very critical role in differentiating the product. Design elements which also differentiate, right? The forms differentiate, the structure differentiate, right? Going on to understanding what is the product hierarchy. We looked at luxury brands, which is basically a subset of products which cater to the various classified products. We also looked into the classification of products depending upon various criteria, the tangibility and the durability parameters, how the consumer behaved into shopping goods and specialty goods. And under specialty goods, we covered the luxury brands. And as we go along, we'll find we also talked about the levels of the product. How you start out with the core benefit and maybe the basic product is there, but there are certain expected things which you have to give in order to be considered. But then you also need to also augment it because your competitors are they will drag you down if you don't do anything. Either you do or you don't perish. Look at Nokia's case. They said that no, we are not going to change. As a result, what happened from being a number one brand, they slipped out. They were in the feature phone, they were the number one, but they lost out because of the complacency. So augmentation has to be done whether you like it or not, because your competition is not going to allow you to sit idle. Potential part is today's mantra, business mantra for organization is to innovate or perish. If you don't innovate, you will perish. You will stop being accepted. And as I told you, because the competition is high, you must keep that engine of innovation high. That's only possible when you have a very robust R&D to back up your product ideas. I've already shared examples of iPhone. Microsoft is another good example. You'll find that till today, Microsoft, in terms of MS Office, still has dominance in terms of the software. Not that it's a great product or something, but they always try to keep innovating it to ensure that they have more user friendliness into the graphic interface. As a result, what happens? That software is more acceptable. Of course, they get a feedback from the market and plow it back into the product, into the software, so that it's taking care of the problems. Ultimately, the products can only thrive if the product managers or those who are in product management understand one critical thing. What we talk about needs and wants are basically the problems that people face. And your products and services basically serve as a solution to that. So referring into the product, tangible product or intangible services. Today we're talking about appifying most of the things. Apps are basically, yes, they are services which are basically augmenting the services. But there are certain things which can be appified. There are other things cannot be appified. Right? So we have to understand what are the limitations and what are the future focus of the. So when you talk about future focus, we talk about the potential. And we looked at what is the product mix today. Product mix elements talking about the length and the breadth and the depth and the consistency. You have to understand, looking into an organization, look into what the product lines are. In terms of value orientation, consumer value, how the product is right, to talk in terms of the evolution of the product hierarchy, as we call it, right? And we also looked at something called product lines stretching, and we of course talked about the upward stretch, downward stretch, and the line filling activities. This is done basically to manage your product lines effectively in the marketplace. Right? And going forward, we'll also look into the 6 levels of product hierarchy, starting from an SKU to the broad need. Every product has a broad need. You have to identify the product class, the product families, where you want to be, the product line that you have to choose, and then getting down to what kind of form in which you can make it available, and the items in which you shall to understand. So it is from a need, you go down to the item. It is like a larger to the scope it. And it's a thing. You will keep on increasing your product lines. You will keep on increasing but which product lines will you pick up? What kind of a need does it satisfy? Some of the needs where you may find the products are out of there's a latent need. There's not a felt need yet. So there are unfelt needs. If you try to bring in products, it may not work. So looking into the larger need, understanding what kind of product family it should have, you have to scope it down to understanding what class of products you want to bring into, and further getting down into product lines and the product forms and the item. Item is also known as the stock keeping. It's a basic unit which attends to the needs of the customer. So when you're talking about the product hierarchy, these are the levels that you need to understand. And into the product mix variables that I told you, how you handle these product lines, looking into whether you should be adding, deleting, stretching, whatever it is, so that you are able to have a portfolio of product which can be managed well and successfully and profitably, meeting the various needs of the customer. Okay, I think we have covered most of the things. Tomorrow we will look into the concepts of product life cycle. With this, I think we should be able to wind up the class today. I would like to thank all of you for a patient listening. I would also request you to please go through the activities which are given as a part of the study material. It has been on the lines of whatever I've spoken, which you can go through various exercises and can understand the introductory part of what we are studying of in terms of product management.